Welcome to today's explainer. Look, if you're in the business of selling, distributing, or even installing lighting, you already know the drill. Sourcing from overseas, it can totally feel like trying to find a needle in a haystack, except, that haystack is literally the size of a small country. So today, our mission is to completely demystify the somewhat overwhelming Chinese decorative lighting market. We're going to cut right through the noise of those endless directory listings and actually help you find your absolute perfect manufacturing partner. To really wrap our heads around the scale we're dealing with here, just think about this. China produces over 70% of the world's lighting products. 70%. On one hand, yeah, that is a wildly daunting statistic. It means there are literally tens of thousands of factories out there practically begging for your business. But on the flip side, it's a massive opportunity. I mean, if you can master the sourcing funnel and figure out exactly who specializes in what, you're unlocking access to just incredible scale, customization, and serious pricing power.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our agenda to get you matched with the right supplier. First, the global powerhouse. Then, we'll meet the top suppliers. Third, finding your perfect match. Fourth, the 5-step vetting process. And finally, mastering MOQs and logistics.
Section 1. The global powerhouse. So finding a truly great manufacturing partner means you have to look way beyond those basic directory listings on Alibaba or global sources. You really have to understand how this massive ecosystem is actually put together. The Chinese decorative lighting sector is essentially split into two totally different worlds. Over on the left side of things, you've got these massive publicly traded giants, companies like Opel, NVC, and Yangkan. We're talking industrial behemoths with literally millions of square feet of production space, massive in-house R&D, and super strict corporate compliance. But then, on the right side, you've got these incredibly agile factory clusters. The most famous one? Definitely the Goodsen Lighting Cluster in Zhongshan. And honestly, this isn't even a single company. It's a massive sourcing hub packed with over 10,000 lighting-related enterprises. Think of it like an entire functioning city whose sole purpose, literally, is just making lamps. It's a highly localized economy that gives you unmatched category breadth and just incredible agility, no matter what size buyer you are. Section 2. Meet the top suppliers. Now that we know the basic lay of the land, let's take a look at the top candidates. We're evaluating them across essential dimensions like scale, OEM and ODM depth, that's original equipment and original design manufacturing, and of course, their minimum order quantity or MOQ flexibility. Just look at the variance here, it's wild. Say you want smart tech. King Sun is your target, for sure, but you're going to need to hit a 500 to 3,000 piece MOQ to play ball. Need high-end crystal chandeliers instead? Huawei is the undisputed heavyweight. Or maybe you just need ultimate flexibility, while the Guzhen cluster offers MOQs as low as 10 pieces for stock items. Understanding this matrix is absolutely crucial. It's your cheat sheet to make sure you aren't wasting time negotiating with a supplier whose entire business model simply doesn't align with yours. Section 3. Finding your perfect match. All right, this is where we shift gears and look at your specific business model. Finding a supplier is, quite honestly, a lot like matchmaking. Let's say you're a smaller buyer or maybe a new e-commerce seller. If you need super fast lead times to test products out on Shopify or Amazon, you definitely want to swipe right on the Guzhen cluster for those incredibly low stock MOQs. Or take a look at Opel. Opel is fantastic because they offer certification-ready products. So items complete with ISO, CE, and UL marks straight out of their catalog and with really flexible order quantities. Basically, this means you can launch quickly and, more importantly, legally in Western markets without fronting all the cash for those crazy expensive certifications. Now, what if you're a brand owner and you want to build something totally unique? If you need custom, decorative designs built entirely from the ground up, you're going to want to target Huawei or Opel. These guys have dedicated in-house R&D teams and incredibly strong ODM capabilities. Huawei will give you just unparalleled quality for high-end crystal and custom fixture designs, whereas Opel is just perfect for co-development partnerships. You're essentially renting their world-class engineering teams to bring your own specific vision to life. It's a huge advantage. But hey, maybe you're playing in the heavy hitter leagues, right? If you're a massive bulk buyer, a distributor, or a project agent handling huge hospitality or retail fit-outs, boutique agility isn't really what you're after. You need massive production scale, flawless export documentation, and all that detailed photometric data your architects are demanding. For this level, you turn to the giants, NVC, FSL, and PAC. Just to give you an idea, NVC operates one of China's absolute largest manufacturing bases, while PAC specializes in those complex, architectural spotlights and custom project fixtures that large-scale installations require. Finally, niche markets definitely require niche players. If you're a tech-forward brand, Kingsun is your perfect match. They specialize entirely in smart decorative lighting and IoT, Internet of Things, integration. On the flip side of that, if you're an eco-focused brand targeting markets like the EU or North America, which have incredibly strict energy regulations, Yongkon is your best bet, hands down. They have this deep engineering expertise in international energy standards like Energy Star and ERP compliance. Listen, you really don't want to try and force a traditional chandelier factory to suddenly learn IoT firmware overnight. You go straight to the specialists.
Section 4. The 5-step vetting process.
Okay, so you've found a supplier whose profile matches your needs. Discovery? Check. Done. Now we pivot to evaluation. Because, as our source material wisely points out, finding a factory is actually the easy part. Seriously, a factory might produce an absolutely stunning sample for you, but if they fail to maintain that exact same consistency at a scale of, say, 2,000 units, yeah, you've got a total supply chain disaster on your hands. Evaluation is where you actually protect your capital.
So the crucial point here is implementing this 5-step insider framework before you ever hit send on a bulk order. Step 1, verify credentials. You've got to cross-check their licenses and CE or UL certificates with third-party databases. Step 2, and honestly this is absolutely huge, demand production samples, not showroom samples. Showroom samples are basically hand-picked best-case scenarios. You need to test the real-world quality that's pulled straight off the actual assembly line. Third, audit that production line for those hidden details, things like solder joint integrity and wire gauge. Fourth, test their MOQ flexibility. A lot of factories will actually negotiate a smaller trial order at a slightly higher unit price for first-time buyers. And finally, step 5, if you're paying for custom molds, clarify in writing that the intellectual property and the tooling actually belong to you, not the factory.
Section 5, mastering MOQs and logistics. All right, you vetted their quality. Now we have to deal with the timelines and actually getting all this inventory into your warehouse. Let's check expectations for those minimum order quantities. Your required minimum heavily depends on your overall approach. If you're just buying standard catalog items, you can usually expect pretty manageable minimums, somewhere in the ballpark of 50 to 200 pieces. But if you're investing in custom ODM designs, keep in mind the factory has to justify the cost of the tooling, the prototyping, and physically setting up the line. For those, you should really expect MOQs to jump to 500 pieces or more. Knowing this upfront, it completely prevents that dreaded sticker shock when you start negotiating.
Now, when it comes to production timelines, your standard items are going to take anywhere from 25 to 45 days. But if you're developing custom fixtures or smart lighting, you absolutely must budget up to 75 days. Why the huge jump? Well, because smart products require entirely different workflows. We're talking printed circuit board assembly and some seriously intensive firmware testing. You really have to factor this extra time into your cash flow and your inventory planning.
Finally, let's talk about getting it all across the ocean. For smaller orders, you're going to use LCL, or less than container load. For bulk, you'll go with FCL, full container load. But here is an incredibly valuable tip straight from the sourcing trenches. If you're buying fragile items, like say those beautiful Hui crystal chandeliers, you must factor in an extra 5 to 10% on your product cost just for custom foam packaging. Seriously, do not skip this. And remember, you can always use third-party verification services like SGS or 2V Rhineland to actually inspect these packing standards and the final quality before your goods ever leave a Chinese port. Well, there you have it. We've covered the powerhouse clusters, the top-tier suppliers, exactly how to match them to your needs, and how to rigorously vet them and manage the logistics. But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final provocative question to really challenge your current or maybe your future sourcing strategy. Ask yourself, are you relying on a factory's hand-picked showroom sample, or have you actually verified their real scalable production quality? Applying that one distinction alone to your very next order could literally be the difference between a massive success and a devastatingly costly recall. So take this framework, apply it to your business, and go master the market.